Well, hello, welcome everybody. Joey, welcome.
Oh, welcome to you too, Pauline.
How you been?
Oh, very well. How about
I
you?
know you've been busy.
Yes, very
Very,
busy.
very.
Homework galore.
But look, you've got it done.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, well done. Doesn't it look superb?
I really love how these colours here they really just pop,
Yeah,
don't
it's
they?
just beautiful. And look at the quilting. It
The
looks
lovely
absolutely
quilting.
beautiful.
Yes,
So
and
well done.
who would have thought it could be so easy to do?
Well, it's nice that you say it's easy. Did you meet any challenges?
Well, obviously there's learning curve
Yep.
to undertake, but the actual process, once you know those little tips and tricks and the right tools to use, it's just so much more simple than you expect it to be.
Yeah, well, like I know a lot of people look at the quilts that I make and they say, I wouldn't have the patience to do that. But, you know, it's all about, I think, once you get into the zone, you stay in that zone and you just can't wait to do the next step.
Well, I think that you get those small achievements too.
Yeah.
Those small achievements build up to a big finished project.
And, you know, if you're like me, you can't wait to see it finished.
That's right.
Are you ready to start your next one?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and it is challenging stitching down these sashings. It's hard to keep everything straight. It's hard to keep everything even, but you've done a superb job. Superb job. And I think, you know, learning to move your needle position over and use the side of the foot as a guide is
And
a big
using a
help.
ruler and using the same rulers
Yep.
that have the same measurements for everything just makes everything line up so well. And we end up with perfect points and we end up with perfect cuts. Everything just works.
It does, and you've got perfect points when you've put your sashings and that on. So well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So 1 step to go.
Yes.
No, 2 steps.
2 steps to go.
2 steps. We have to trim this up
Right.
and then we have to put the binding on.
That's right, because everything, once it comes together, it's not exactly the same size because of quilting and...
Exactly. And so we're going to explain it now. So we're going to just turn the quilt over. And I've been marking out, doing some preparation work for you so that it's a little bit easier to explain to everybody.
You're so good to me, Pauline.
Oh, well, you know, you're good to me. I've got to be good to you. But now what we need to know, and we're aware of it, and we were aware of it right from the beginning when we started to run out of fabric.
Yes.
That was our big challenge. So we can see we couldn't get a full triangle. We couldn't get 4 triangles the same size. We were short on one. So to go over how we're working out how to trim this back, give your quilt top a good press to start with some steam just to settle everything down. And you've done a really good job. There's no waves or bubbles in it.
It's
That's
very
excellent.
nice. And I love this fabric that we used on the back here.
Yeah.
It's just got that shine to it. I've always loved this. Every time I see it, it's like, especially when the quilting came onto it, so nice.
Well, it looks gorgeous from the back, doesn't it? You could nearly lay that out on the wrong
could.
side. So now what we're going to do, we have to work out, because we're going to have to cut back to this measurement. You can see I've got some pins in here. So what I've done is I decided that if I got a measurement from where these 2 sashings come together, if I measured from there to there, which is just a little bit below our shortest point.
Yes, this is the shortest part of the quilt. If we look at it overall,
Exactly.
this is the smallest part.
Because
So
everything else comes right out to the edge.
we need to bring
well.
it back to that smallest part so we've got no...
Which is a shame that we have to cut all that off, but this is what has to happen if you're short of fabric. So I've measured, it might be easier if we use a tape measure here. So from this up to about where I think it should be cut, it's 2 1/4 inches. So we're right on that
Right on that point?
Yes. So I've put a pencil line there, right? And I have put a pin there, and you'll see why I've put the pin there in a moment. So now we come over to the other side and we'll measure from this point up our 2 1/4 inches. Okay, we've put a line.
Perfect.
Okay, put a pin. So we've done that on all 4 sides, right? So here we've got it marked 2 1/4 inches.
That makes so much sense because it's going to make it just look the same on all sides. And it's probably something you don't think about, probably think, yeah, oh, I'll just get a straight line there. But if you actually measure from some point in the quilt, then you're going to
Exactly.
get some nice symmetry.
Yes, because and then what we need to do is once we get that marked out, but we're going to flip the quilt over, and you notice, as I said, I've got the pins there. Mm-hmm. Now the pins are there so that I've got a reference on the other side of the quilt. So we'll turn it over, just drag it back. Okay, so now we can see the pins shining through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's our reference point there.
Because why I've done that, because we've got this little section, funny little section here, and once again we joined this in because we were running out of this fabric. You know, if we had had enough of this fabric, we could have gone straight through, which would have made it easier.
It would have.
But we had to work with what we had.
And these are the learning curves that we have, aren't they? If you run out of fabric, you have to find some way of getting around that.
It is patchwork.
That's right. It is.
Patch it up, patch it up. So now if I measure from, say, this point here up to here, we've got our 2 1/4 inches.
Yep.
Okay, because that's where those pieces at the back intersected. So by putting that pin there and measuring all of these from the front, I can check that everything's going to be the same. So then what I've done is with all of those pins, I'll move it across here so we can see it. We need to just get it nice and flat. And this is where you need a good workspace. You know, we're lucky we've got this lovely adjustable table. But we're going to put the tape measure there at that
Right
pin.
on that pin?
Yes. And we're going to measure across to here, to this pin. Now we've got 39 and a quarter. All right. So now we need to measure from that pin to this pin to make sure we've got the same.
It's the same. So we're going to turn it.
We'll just leave it there.
There it is
In
there.
there. Hold this out. And we've got 39 and a quarter. We just might need to turn this around to do it properly.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, we need it flat.
It's hard to measure when it's not.
Even.
So start here.
Yes. And just walk your tape measure across.
No lumps and bumps.
No lumps and bumps. And now we've got it at 39. It's just 1/8 over. Okay, which is really nothing in the makeup of the whole thing, because what I've done here, just pull it over that way a bit. We are on the 2 1/4. So
I think that's probably more important, isn't it? Because that
is.
The edges will look right.
That's exactly right. And like 1/8 of an inch in the makeup of all of this is excellent. If that's all you've got to fudge with, that is brilliant.
And we're good at fudging.
Yeah, and sometimes like you might have an inch difference or 1.5 inches. That's when you have to start looking at another way of fixing that, which, you know, is another lesson in itself. So well done. Well done,
Thank you. Well, thank you for putting the markings on here for me. That's going to make things a little bit easier today.
Yes, so now what we're going to do, we'll just move it forward. And under here we've got our big cutting mat. Okay, now people in all my other videos and that see that I always use this little small cutting mat. This is one time where you need a big mat, you need a big long ruler, and you need a big rotary cutter, because we're now working with a great
and bulk.
length. Yes.
Length and bulk.
Yes.
So we're using a large rotary cutter, which is really rare for us.
It is very rare. So now what we're going to do is we need to line up with this pin here. We're going to draw a line. As you see, I've already got those lines drawn, right? And we just keep working through, pulling it forward, lining up, and going all the way through. So we're doing that all the way around, and which we've got it already marked up.
Lovely square.
Okay, so now it's time to attack it with the rotary cutter.
Woohoo!
So, but take your pins out first, because you don't want those pins to
damage the rotary cutter.
hit the blade of the cutter. You know, and if this was a much bigger quilt, I'd be looking at my diagonal measurements too, and checking that
So from corner to corner, you want that to be the same as well?
Yes, and I've already checked that and it is spot on. So you've done such an excellent job. So now we're just going to cut this so it looks all nice and neat. Oops. Just keep it flat.
Are we using the big ruler?
Big ruler and the big cutter.
And we like to use the big ruler. We should go from over the edge, shouldn't we?
Yes.
Get it all on the line very nicely. And the big...
Pull it back towards yourself. Now start your blade rolling before you get onto the fabric.
Nice and firm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have any...
Stop now.
Yep.
What do you do next?
We close the blade.
All right, look at that. Nice clean cut.
That's
and
a
look
nice
how
cut.
different it looks already.
Yes. So much neater.
Now we keep going along till we get every edge now
Always
trimmed.
want to make sure that we're lined
now you're
up
going
with
to have a
that
bit of bulk
previous...
here, so just take it slow.
A nice good pressure.
Yep.
This is, I'm so used to that one.
Yeah,
it's quite different.
Feels heavy and bulky, doesn't it? You can feel that bulk.
Definitely can.
And I don't like to, stretch too far out ahead of yourself with your cutter.
I think you can go off.
Yes, very easy. Okay.
Last little bit. It's just such a different cutter.
There you go. Nice. And look, that looks so good.
Nice and neat. Ready for its binding. Binding, is that the right word?
Yes, you're going to add your binding. Okay, so just continue to trim all of that back, and then we're going to start on your binding. We've got to decide on colour. What colour you think you're going to need.
We're still choosing colours.
Well, you've got to decide what colour you want your binding to be. Did you all see that? She put that cutter down. Not at the last minute.
No.
And it's so easy to do.
How many gold stars?
Well, I think she just lost a bucket full of them there.
All
you know
of the
that one you
ones.
got last lesson?
Oh, no, you can't take that one off me. No, I'll put that away somewhere nice and secret.
I
You
thought
can't
you would have
have
been
that
wearing
one.
that today.
Oh, look, I put it on my Christmas tree.
Oh, did you?
And then I put it away with my decorations, so I'll have to get it out again. Oh, see, it's so bulky there. You really need some good pressure. Just making sure we've gotten through, not quite.
Yeah, because there's the double seam and then there's the fabric and there's the wadding and
everything.
There's a lot of bulk there.
There we go.
This is why you need a really good sharp blade.
You do. I just remembered then. Let's move it down a bit.
Okay.
Can we come down a bit further?
Yeah, you sure can.
Just want to make sure that we're going right off the edge there.
All right, so you continue doing that, and it gets exciting now making the binding up. Have you ever bound anything before?
No, I actually haven't. Oh, I suppose I have on the sleeves of things.
Yes. Well, it's much
sort of
the same
thing.
sort of thing, but we need to teach you how to do the mitred corners.
Yes, because my binding's always sort of round, sleeves and necklines and
so
things
it's always
like that.
cut on the bias. Yeah, so with this we cut it on the straight grain.
Okay.
We always cut across the width of the fabric.
Okay, well, I'll keep going with this.
Okay, good.
And we can cut there.
And I notice you've got a few little glue marks on the quilt, where you reposition things.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that because it'll wash out.
Because you can feel them in a few places where we pulled it off and tried again.
And I always do give my quilts a nice wash when I finish them. Because, you've been handling it for, what?
Oh, yes, and it's been down on the floor when...
It's been everywhere. So it's always nice to give them a nice wash. I do it in my front-loaded washing machine on a gentle cycle with a little tiny bit of washing detergent, and a little bit of fabric softener, just on a very gentle cycle. And then I put it out on the line upside down over a couple of the rungs of the clothesline.
Upside down, you mean? So you put this
Face down,
Face
because I
down.
don't want the sun bleaching this. So, and I only leave it out there till it's still a little bit damp when I bring it in, and I lay it out flat somewhere inside to finish it off. And then they're always soft and cuddly, because remember we used the Hobbs Heirloom double-sided fusible batting.
So you do that because if you left it out in the sun, it would get a bit hard and
Yes,
crispy.
yes.
So you bring it inside
Yes.
for a gentler final
Yes.
dry.
Yes, and using that Hobbs fusible batting, it's going to wash the fusible out of it,
Oh, so it becomes all soft and nice.
soft, and it washes the glue out. So you end up with a beautiful, soft, cuddly quilt. Okay,
Last one.
well done.
So it's all squared beautifully. So and it looks so neat now.
It does, it does. So now what do you think you're going to use for your binding?
Well, I don't know.
Because this is all you have left.
We really have attacked the stash, haven't we?
We have.
What about this one?
Okay,
What do you think?
well, let's have a look.
Because we have a bit of it in here.
Yep.
So
So just what I do is put it out underneath the quilt.
and just fold it over so it looks like a
Let me
binding.
shift this ruler out of the road. And can you see what would happen there? If you cut it that way, let's just move it up here,
So
because
it's got the
it's got the directional line. Let's move it up.
oh, I
here,
see. I see what the problem's going
because
to be.
here we've got a bunch of colour. So, and you'd only be having it quite small. But if you didn't cut it exactly straight and join it properly and fold it properly, this would look probably quite...
It's yes, as you say, it's directional. So if I was to join another piece on and I didn't match it up exactly with this, it's going to look very strange.
It would. You could put it this way. Oops. You could put it over this way.
No, I don't like that.
Or you could cut it on the bias, but I personally don't think the colour matches.
Okay. No good. All right, let's try this one.
We do have more of that purple. We've just got a little piece out to try. That's it. And, you know, you can procrastinate here for a little time and it doesn't matter. A lot of people get a little bit anxious at the binding stage and rush it, and it doesn't...
I'm already saying no to this one.
Yeah, because you
because
can see...
it's just too much. It's just...
Yes. Okay. This is your other choice.
Okay, so but this might be my favourite because of the way the colours pop here. So I wonder, so I try and find a piece that's got a bit of that in it and fold it over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
look at
see
that.
now I like that.
It looks good, doesn't it? It brings everything to the
It
outside
does.
edge.
It does.
And, you know, and you have to consider what you've got on the back too.
Because you want it to look good there too.
Absolutely. Because if you put it upside down, that
see,
looks so
that's very
nice, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well done. Well done.
Okay,
All right.
this is our choice.
That is. Now, another little tip. Like if this quilt was longer on one side than the other, we've only got 1/8 of an inch difference, so we don't have to do anything about it. But if it was like 2 inches bigger, which can happen, I always suggest measure through the middle of the quilt and measure both sides, and you might get 3 different measurements, but you've only got 1 different measurement by 1/8 of an inch. But what I would do if it was different in measurements, I just don't go and put the binding on, because it can just all go wonky on you. And you see a lot of quilts where the edges are like all
So
fluted.
what do you do?
What do? I find the smallest measurement, and I want to bring those other measurements back to that measurement simply by running a small gathering stitch with needle and thread by hand along the edge that's too long.
And you just gather it up a little bit.
Slightly gather it up. Anchor that thread off at the end when you get it to all measurements the same in all directions. Now that quilt will sit perfectly
So
flat.
it won't show. You won't be able to see that that's been gathered.
No, and if everybody wants to see how I do that, I do have this on a YouTube video.
Oh, okay.
So go to my YouTube channel and you see exactly what I'm talking about to do this. All right.
Okay.
So now let's get this out of the road. So now we're going to now cut your binding. So I usually cut my bindings 2 1/4 or 2 1/2. So I think with this fabric we'll cut it 2 1/2.
Okay.
Okay. But what I want to do is we're not going to use a normal ruler to cut your binding.
Aren't we? Aren't we all about the rulers, Pauline?
We are. But I'm going to introduce you to a new one and introduce
it a ruler?
everybody. It is a ruler. Look at it.
Ah.
This is what I call the duo tool.
And this is a really interesting piece of gear, isn't it?
It is. We're not going to talk about these angled lines and the little holes. We're only going to talk about the width and this angle. So this is, if we were going to do use this, we would be doing ruche flowers. Nothing to do with what we're doing now, but it's also used to do your bindings.
That sounds interesting.
It is
ruche flowers.
interesting. It is interesting. So this ruler measures exactly 2 1/2 inches. If you were cutting your binding 2 1/4, you'd have it to that line. So now we're going to put this down. We've got your fabric folded into 4, which you've learnt to do.
I think
the
in
lesson.
lesson 2
Oh, I forget.
or
Been
1.
so many.
It might even be the first when we chose the fabric.
But see how that fits the length of your fabric folded
That's
into
just
4?
so good. I've got that right angle exactly right
Yes.
there, and it's right along there.
Okay.
Can we use the small one this time?
Yes. Oh, she's pushing me out of the road.
I always do that.
Up.
I remember doing that before.
So now to work out how many strips you're going to need,
I haven't put it down yet.
like this is a full width of fabric. So measure your quilt and work out how many strips you need. But we've got to join all of these strips together on a 45-degree angle. So that eats up a fair bit of your fabric.
I think this
That's
might
right.
come into play
That's
there.
right.
The duo tool.
So cut as many strips as you need. I always say measure your quilt and cut 1 extra strip to whatever that measurement is, because you need about 10 or 12 inches to accommodate all your joins as you join your strips together and that end joint. I'd always prefer to have too much than not enough. There's nothing worse than stitching your binding around and you're this much short.
Yep.
Okay, so we just continue cutting till we get the amount of strips we need.
Which way did we have it before? This way?
Exactly like that. So now the next step is we're going to show you how to join this together. But what I've done is I've made up step-by-step samples for you to make it easier to explain and to explain to everybody out there, because we need to get a full understanding of your binding.
She's such a good teacher. Little samples.
I might get a gold star.
Oh, I think she deserves one. I think it's about time.
So this is the little sample I've done.
It's quite lovely.
Isn't it gorgeous? I love that quilting pattern. And that was one of our templates that we used out of our template packs, this template.
Which you would never guess, like looking at that and looking at this, you would never guess that that was made from there.
Well, you wouldn't, but it's what we used for this.
Yes, it is.
So, but see how when you put it out as a full pattern, how it works?
They're so versatile, so many different ways.
They're great. They're great. So now what we want to do is, this is the demo we're going to explain to you. So, and I always suggest if you've never done a binding before, it is a really good idea to make a sample up like this first, because it gives you the confidence before you go to the quilt to get that binding on perfect. So our strips are cut. Now what we need to do is we're going to put these on like such.
So this is right sides together.
Exactly. And it's like an L shape.
A 90-degree angle. We want.
So now you're going to use the tool, like so, and we're going to draw a line across here with your dark lead.
So we want it lined up there, lined up there. What about this little
Oh, we'll just move the
nudge.
ruler across a bit.
Up a bit?
Yep. But you want to come right to this corner, so I keep it down here close on this corner to start with. You know, once you get practice at this, you won't need to draw the line. Just move it up a bit, because you'll be able to eyeball it. But I always say, first time, mark it out. It's going to be much easier.
What do the builders say? Measure twice?
Yep.
Cut once.
So now we pop a pin in that. Okay.
Pop a pin in it.
And we're going to stitch that, and it's going to come out on this lovely 45-degree angle.
That's so perfect. This tool is just so clever to do that
Well, it gives you that perfect line.
And what's this little bit here? Is that a...
Don't ask too many questions yet. All will be revealed. That's why we're doing a sample.
Okay.
Okay, before we approach the quilt. So what you're going to do, off to the sewing machine now and stitch that line. So if we leave the pin on that line like that, you won't be able to stitch. So pop the pin like so.
Oh,
Okay.
another clever
so
tip.
stitch right on that line.
Okay.
Okay. So that's nice. You've sewn that now. So now what we do is we're going to use this line, this 1/4 inch line
Yes.
on the ruler. You're going to place it on that stitching line and you're going to trim. So you're just trimming back to the 1/4 inch. And you can see why I said cut one extra strip, because see how much fabric
We're
taking
losing.
off there.
So
And
even
if
if you
you've got
measure so carefully, you're still going to end up with a little bit short.
Yes. Okay. So there you've got your perfect join.
Isn't that lovely?
So now what we do is we're going to press that seam. So if you've got a lot of these joins, you'll press them all going the one direction. And then flip it over and press the other side. This is one of the fabrics that you pulled out to start with, which you
think
thought
so.
you might have used in the quilt. So there you go.
This is just a practice one though.
It is. So now to make our binding, we're going to fold it in half.
And a little press?
Just press the first little bit, because we're going to use
Sorry,
one of the sasha tools now. That's it. That's plenty. So we're going to use, because this was a 2.5 inch wide strip, we've folded it in half. It now measures 1 1/4. So we put it into the tool. You can do all that. And it's just like doing what you were doing before, but remember, before using the tool to do the sashings, we folded each side in till it met.
And so we're going to use the forked pin.
Yes, the
See,
double fork. Yeah, good girl. And now, doing the binding, all you need to do is hold this top part of the fabric. You don't need to hold both of them. Just keep pressure on it. Keep them aligned. That's it. Perfect.
Oh, look. The tools just make this job so easy.
Yep.
Get a bit of heat in.
So with your, I'd be saying to you, do this on the big ironing board.
So you can get a big long...
Get a big long swoop. So you
Swoop.
just scoop, swoop, whatever. Tongue-tied.
Scoop.
Okay, so, and I noticed that you're pushing down really hard on the iron. You don't need to.
Don't need... Oh, I was wondering what this was. It's
Now,
the
when you
lovely
get up
join.
close to that join, we're going to do that tap, tap, tap again.
Don't need to push hard on the line.
No, just gentle, just very gentle. Now start tapping the tool to go across that seam. See that? Cross perfect. And you have your perfect binding now.
Look at that.
So you keep doing that along the whole binding strip. All right? So now we'll just pop this out of the road. So now the next thing we need to do is leave an opening. Now this is only a small sample, so I'm just guessing an opening. But on my larger quilt, I would like to recommend leaving a 12-inch opening. That measures exactly 12 inches. So on your big quilt, you put this down, you put a mark. But on this little sample, we're only doing a smaller space.
Again, a very versatile tool.
Exactly. So now what we're going to do with our binding that we've got done, when we start putting the binding on, we need to leave a good, say about 10 inches of tail. So if you went from there to there, because that's 10 inches.
That's 10.
Okay. So, and we'd start sewing here. All right, so we'll pop a pin in. If you just pass me a pin.
Do you want to pop it in? Oh, sorry, that way?
Yes. So we'll pop it in this
That way, yep.
Yep. So now we're going to go to the machine. But when you're working out the amount of fabric you need for your binding, always allow about 10 inches of tail at both ends, okay? And then you've got to allow for this cut off. So that's why I say one extra strip. Maybe too much, maybe not enough. Now, if we take a 1/4 inch seam and we fold this over, it gets a little bit too wide, so I'm going to get you to move your needle position over 2 positions. So we're taking just a little bit more than a 1/4 inch. We're going to take like a 3/8 inch seam. That way it'll make a really nice fold on your binding. So when we get up to here, we're going to start sewing here. So I do a couple of back stitches, come up, and we're going to stop our seam allowance from the corner.
So we're going to a 1/4 inch or the 3/8?
3/8. So we're going to mark that in, and then when we get to there, we're going to put our needle down. We're going to swing this before we put the needle down. We're going to press the reverse button, and we're going to reverse right off.
Oh.
And all your threads will all just tangle together, but we want to reverse off so the foot is sitting up here.
Okay.
Then we're going to fold this onto a right angle, like so. Okay, so what we're doing, we're putting our finger here. The foot, you've got the pressure foot up. We're going to fold this around. So what it's going to do is we need to make sure that this top level, this fold level, is level with the edge of the quilt. We need to make sure this open edge of the binding, the raw edge of the binding, is level with this side of the fabric. And we need to know that both of these pieces here, I'm just going to hold this down, both of these pieces here are level. Because what's happening under here is we've got that 45-degree fold.
Yes, so you've got that line there.
So just get this out of the road. We've got this 45-degree fold there.
So everything has to be level. So we're going
Everything
to bring
has to
that,
be-
so that's exactly with that.
Yes.
This is exactly here,
So what I mean is you can't have it
like that.
like that because it won't come out properly. But anyway, we'll go to the machine and do that. But that's how you do all the corners. So I'm going to guide you around the first couple of corners, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to join the end.
Okay,
Okay, so let's go to the sewing machine.
to the machine.
Okay, so now we're just going to start where you've got that pin.
So we've actually moved that needle two movements across from the 1/4 inch, haven't we?
Yep. So now do a couple of little back stitches there just to anchor that off. Right, cool. Now come down and stop your seam allowance from the corner. Okay, I'd say that's about it. Now needle down, lift your pressure foot, pivot around.
Coming around this way.
Yes. Put your pressure foot back down. Now you're going to push the reverse button and stitch all the way back off it.
So weird.
It is weird. Now I like to do that because the threads are still there and it keeps everything in line.
Okay, so
If you cut the threads, you've got to reposition everything again. So now this is where you fold like I showed you.
so we need to
Pick
fold
that
this
up.
up and meet it up here.
That's it.
We need to bring this around so it's nice and level
That's perfect.
there.
Perfect.
And then we want that to be all level along there and just
Okay,
check it all.
So then you lift your pressure foot up. Come back down right so the needle's right up against the edge of the fabric. That's
Oh,
it.
the needle was still down.
Yes, that's good. What it needs to be.
Pressure foot down.
And then you start
So I
sewing.
just lift that and move that along a little bit there. And away we
Perfect.
go.
And that's how you do all your mitered corners. That's excellent, Joey.
So clever.
Yes. So just keep going and do the other 3 corners and then come back up to where we've got that other mark and stop.
Okay.
Because we've got that other mark marked here.
Okay.
All right, stop.
All right.
So I'm going to leave you to it.
Okay.
All right.
Pauline, I'm done.
Oh, good girl. Good girl. How was that?
That was good. I really like the way these corners work.
Well, let's check you out. Let's see how it goes. So I did the first one with you. Let's check your second one.
Okay.
Perfect. Looks good to me. Oh, look, Joey. Perfect
see?
mitre.
And I didn't know how that was going to look when we were done.
Perfect mitre. That is excellent. And what it's going to do is going to fold over and give you the perfect mitre on the back.
On both sides.
Clever, clever, clever. So well done. So it's a few steps to take, but it's easy. So now what we're going to do is show you how we join these ends, because this can be quite confusing. There's a lot of ways of doing it. Like I used to always do it like this, fold this back here on a 45-degree angle, and I'd just stitch straight across it. But what happens then when you roll it over, these don't become level
Yes, of
because
course.
of the bulk.
One of them's trying to reach around the other one.
Exactly, exactly. And it always ended up bulky and messy, and there's many, many ways to do it. But with using our ruler, what we do is we lay this down and we pop a mark. I'll just get my marking pencil. We need to put a line across here anywhere in this section.
Anywhere.
Not too close to the edge, obviously, but in about the middle. We're using this line on the ruler, okay, which is C, and we're going to mark a line. Okay, then we're going to put this one over the top, and we're going to put the line in exactly the same position. Okay, so now we open this out. Oops, I just got to get and we want to draw the line all the way across.
All the way down.
So by using the lines on the rulers that we've put on here, it keeps everything straight for you. Okay, so we've got the one line going there, and then we open this one out. Oops, doesn't want to open. And we're going to put the line across here.
You know, Pauline, I think that this duo tool has many secrets yet to be revealed.
It does, it does.
I'm just looking at it and I can see there's an A, a B, a C. What on earth?
And that's what they're all used for. When we did our diagonal, we used the B against the edge of the fabric to draw our diagonal.
But what a great way to be able to explain to somebody how to use it when you've marked it that way. It's fantastic.
Very easy, very easy.
I think it's one of your most clever tools.
Yeah, we like it. It's getting people to know about these things, Joey. I think everybody that's going to make a quilt needs one of these rulers.
Well, I think a couple of times at the shows, people have asked me what it's for, and I always say, oh, it's making your bindings.
So now you know. So now we're going to use the B again, and we're going to put that against that line that we've just drawn. Now see how this little notch is here?
Here it comes.
Here it comes. Draw. Now, as you get used to using this ruler, as I am well used to it, I don't draw these lines, I just get the rotary cutter and cut it.
And just cut it.
But I would say that don't do that to start with. So now with this one, we've got the notch up the top there. We need the notch down the bottom here. So we're going to put the ruler this way.
And go back that way.
So we're not lining this line up with anything now. We're lining it up.
The little notch.
The notch with there, and we draw across. Now, we've included the seam allowance in this angle. So what we're going to do now is cut these. But before we cut it, just do yourself a little check. Just fold this back. Just to make sure you've got your angles right. Fold this one back.
I think it's easy to get confused with these angles.
Very much so. Fold them both back. Now they're going to match there perfect. We'll just get them. It's very hard to do this. As in, make it look, I'll just finger press that. Finger press this one. And see, on this little sample, we really haven't left ourselves enough opening.
But it's a bit fiddly because it's small.
But see, that is going to line up there perfect. Okay, so if you you can either cut those with scissors or cut it with the rotary cutter.
Okay.
Probably your scissors is easier on this little angle, but don't forget to put that notch in.
The little notch. What if I started with the notch? Would you start with the notch?
Well,
or would you
whatever
start
way
with
you want to go.
I think it's actually easier to start with the angle here.
Yep. But as I say, you know, once you get used to it, you just use your rotary cutter, fold your quilt out to the side, and then just cut this. That's it, and across. And do the same with this one. A bit hard to see on that fabric. Can you see it? It's in here. Okay, there it is
notches.
there. The notch is, let's just see which side the notch is on. I think we need to unpick a little bit of this. We've got it just a little bit too close. We'll just use these scissors.
Look at her unpicking with the scissors.
Oh, well. Unpick is not close at hand. So let's spread this out.
It's there. I
It's
can
there.
see it
You
now.
can see it there. Good.
So I'm going to go, it's right there.
Down a bit.
So
It's
like
just disappearing into the fabric.
it is indeed.
But this is why I say it's good to make a sample.
Yes.
And I would make a sample and have those lines drawn on it and write myself some notes on the sample.
I've got a few samples like that through our travels
Good, good,
with
good.
little notes on them.
So now see how that just fits perfect? So
That is
all we
excellent.
do now is, this is why we have the little notches. See that flat edge there?
That goes on the flat edge of the other side.
That's right. So we need a couple of pins. Actually, best to pin this. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh, bless you. Bless you. Bless you again. So, and this notch this side now lines up with this edge. And see how it fits there perfect?
It's
Can we have another
so
pin?
clever.
So now off to the sewing machine you go. Move that needle back to your 1/4 inch position.
So it's only 2 movements
Yes.
across.
So sew
And
from
stitch
there
that.
to there. I'll wait
To
for
the
you.
machine.
Well done.
So that's
Nice joint.
such a clever way of doing it.
Wonderful.
Once you get those angles right and you've got your little, your 1/4 inch measurement here, it's just a clever
all
tool.
works.
It makes that job so much easier.
It certainly does. Now, if you pass the iron over and just put your iron on that and press it. That's it. And see how neat that now sits?
It's lovely.
So the next step would be you'd go back and sew across there and see how it fits there perfect.
That's
Absolutely
just
perfect.
great.
So that's what your next step would be on your quilt. So now what we can do here, there's 2 ways you can stitch your binding down. You can either turn it to the back and hand stitch, right? And that can be relaxing. A lot of people love hand stitching. Or on a lot of my quilts, I turn it to the back or to the front. I could have put the binding on the front side and taken it to the back, or could have put it on the back side and taken it to the front. Doesn't matter, because what we're going to do is put the glue along here. All right, and we're going to press that.
So we're going to fold it over to it.
Yes, and press. Fold right back to that stitching line. Get your hot iron and press that. So I even do this if I'm going to be hand stitching, Jo, because it a lot of times we pin or use the clips to do that.
It keeps it in place.
And your thread gets hooked around the pins or the clips all the time. Where if you've got nothing in the road and you just glue it like this.
And as we said, we're going to wash it.
Yep.
So that will just wash
Glue
out.
washes out. Can you just grab me the awl from the sewing machine, please? Because I want to show you how to do this corner. So we're going to put the glue right up into the corner and press that for me. Or I'm going to trust you.
Don't burn your fingers.
Right, so now we're going to put the glue out on a 45-degree angle, like so. Okay. Then come back around and use the awl and fold like so and press.
Trust you all. Oh, she didn't trust me.
But, the awl does what your fingers can't do.
That's right.
So
It's your
if I was you, I'd be holding
extra
that.
fingers.
Now look at that.
There we go.
It's a perfect mitre. And when we look at the other side,
It's perfect
we
on
have
that
a
side
perfect
too.
mitre.
That's just lovely.
So if I was going to be machining this down, I would then put the monopoly thread, the clear thread in the top and the bobbin, and I would use the open toe foot and move my needle over so it's right on the edge, and then I would stitch right on the edge. So that's how we do the binding.
That's fantastic.
So now
So-
you're ready to do your quilt. But
we're not done.
I've got a surprise for you and for everybody out there. There's going to be one more episode because Joey's going to have to do this as homework.
I will. It was really too much to try and do in an episode. So we're going to be back.
It is, and that's why I want you to do the sample, because now you've got the sample to take home with you to get it done exactly
The same way.
the same way. And then the next episode, there's going to be some more surprises. So come back and join us for episode 18, which I'm going to say is the final one. And it'll be like cut.
Cut.
Cut,
Cut.
cut, cut,
Cut. Well, where's my scissors?
cut. Perfect. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Well,
Hello. Hello, Pauline.
how you going?
Hello, everyone. We always do that. The
Yeah,
first
we
bit
never
is
know-
always like.
We never know who's going to say hello. Okay.
Okay.